let's talk about habits and how certain habits can quite literally change your entire life. Whether big or small, everything that you do has a knock-on effect on everything else. So be sure to choose wisely. With habits, it's all about how things accumulate over time, as nothing will ever just change overnight. They don't have to be complicated either, as they're just things that we just regularly do. With enough time, we don't even have to think about them anymore. And with a little bit of consistency, they can transform us into a completely different person.
Creating and maintaining positive and good habits might be just the thing that's stopping you from progressing to that next stage in your life. Habits don't necessarily have to be difficult, but it is something that, we generally just have to implement into our daily lives seamlessly, because otherwise it would seem like it's more of a chore than something that just happens regularly that we do. However, there are certain things that in my book are absolutely non-negotiable. One of the habits that allowed me to pretty much transform my life was setting goals, but setting goals the right way and then actually sticking to them. Because when you set yourself goals, you will find that when you have something to aim for, it is easier to take small necessary steps regularly to get into that thing. And making goal setting a habit will allow you to reach pretty much everything faster and more efficiently. For me personally, I work better when I have a target, because when I have a target, I know exactly where I'm aiming. If I'm just, free, if I'm just winging it and I'm just free flowing and I'm just kind of doing this, that and the other, I don't really tend to make much progress, if at all. But if I have a set goal, a set target, then I know I need to create steps in order to reach it, and eventually I will. The actual length of time doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter how much you progress every single time. What matters is that you have a clear vision, and then once you have that, you can make a plan to get towards it. When I was doing the charity run a couple months ago, obviously I wasn't much of a runner at all, but my goal was 30 miles. So I knew I had to take training differently, I had to take training seriously, I needed to include an additional running session every single week, and then I did that for as long as I could up until the day of the run. However, if I was just to go out running, I wouldn't have gotten as good as I did in such a short amount of time. And as good as that is, because I'm constantly making progress, right? I don't have a clear vision as to where I'm going. I'm just kind of going somewhere. And I do feel like that getting into a habit of setting regular goals is the way forward. With setting goals, the next thing that comes into it is accountability. Accountability is an incredible habit to get into. And it's basically, for me, is to turn around and say, everything's your fault. And if something isn't your fault, it's your problem, because it's now in your hands. Instead of saying, I don't have this because of that person, you need to turn around and say, I don't have this because I just haven't worked hard enough. That's how I think. That's how I see it. And I think accountability and setting goals really do go hand in hand, because when you do set something, you then become accountable to reach that goal. I've definitely found that once I started taking on more accountability and, in a sense, more positive pressure on myself, just saying myself, the clear task for the week, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to sway away from it. If I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. Sometimes you have to go in a bit of a roundabout way because something pops up, so you have to get something out of the way first, but you always come back to do what you need to do. And I found that once I started doing that, so many things have just leveled up. So many things have gotten clearer, better, more efficient. And beside the whole self-improvement and productivity thing, things outside of the work life also get better. Because once you stop putting the blame on external factors and you put the blame on yourself, because if you aren't where you want to be right now, it's not because of X, Y, and Z, it's because of you. And I understand that might be a bit of a blunt way to look at it, and of course, certain things won't be your fault, but if they happen to you, they now become your problem. So it's just a matter of, okay, I have this condition, I must do this. Well, it's just a matter of, how do I squeeze this in? Where do I put that, which will then allow me to do what I want to do, around it, with it, because of it. When you take that mindset and you just make yourself accountable for everything, things really do change, and things really do become much easier to handle. I think that everybody needs to look after themselves, look after their health, what they eat, what they do, how much they move, and be conscious of the fact that our bodies were designed for movement. not for sitting down all the time. I'm pretty sure every single self-help thing out there mentions how, you know, you just get out, get yourself to the gym, get yourself outside, go for a walk, go for a run, swim, whatever it may be, but everybody tells you to go and move. Because working out isn't just to look good, look better. It also has a significant impact on your mentality, how you think, how you go about your day. Personally, I don't think I would have gotten to where I am in my life today if it wasn't for the gym. And I know that might sound pretty crazy to some people, but fitness has given me so much. Fitness and working out in general kind of forces you to be in an uncomfortable situation for a period of time, but by going through that discomfort, you come out a better person. And obviously it's not just immediate, this takes time, sometimes even years. I've learned that sometimes, even on the bad days when I really don't feel like going, when I push myself to go, I feel so much better after going to the gym and training than if I was just to go home and just chill and relax. It also keeps me motivated because I know that I'm able to get through difficult things, you know, very often. It's not every day. Some days I generally do need a break. We all do. If you just generally don't feel like going because you're just too exhausted, just don't go. Have a day off. Have a bit of time to yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, because when you really think about it, if you have 1 or 2 days off, you know, in the grand scheme of things, in like a full year, as long as you're consistent, those 2 days are practically invisible. Taking real action is another thing that made a huge change in my life. Because when you actually do set yourself the goals that we spoke about earlier, and you take real actionable steps towards them, that's when you get that real sense of achievement, working towards something, that real rush of dopamine of doing something you haven't done before. And quite honestly, I don't think anything will ever beat that sense of accomplishment. When you set yourself, I'm going to write an ebook, and you write it, you're going to make this video and you make it, and when you publish it on the internet, when you share it with friends and you share it with like-minded people, you're talking about it, you get this feedback, and then you take actionable steps to go again and again and again as you're just getting better and better. Taking action is the most important thing when it comes to changing things. And don't get me wrong, in the past, yeah, I took action, but I feel like it wasn't really meaningful. Whereas I made it a big habit of now that if I'm doing something, if I'm about to take an action towards something, it has to have some form of meaning. When you're working towards your goals, when you're actually trying to make something happen, why am I doing this? Ask yourself why. I'm taking an action, but why? What will this do? How will this help me? Where will this take me? Make a habit of making your actions impactful, and always question as to why you're doing something. One other big thing that changes in your mindset when you just regularly take action is that you find yourself procrastinating a lot less, you know, because you're doing things more often and you're just doing things instead of saying you will or thinking you will. The dynamic in your brain changes a little bit because then you see action differently. You just see something that you want to do and you go and do it rather than sitting there thinking about it. One thing that ties in with action is learning, because you have to always want to learn, or at the very least, allow yourself to be corrected when you're wrong. Because you will be. I ask for advice on certain things all the time because I speak to like-minded people on a daily basis. And if I produce something and I'm just like, listen lads, I've done this is what it's about, this is the theme, what do you think? I want them to tell me exactly what they're thinking, because I might think, yo, this idea is amazing, this idea is it. And then they'll come back and say, actually, so-and-so, this and that. And I'm like, you know what, now that you say it, that's true, that's probably not that great. And you take that feedback on board, you learn from it, apply the changes, and then move forward. Because sometimes we sit there thinking this idea is great, when in reality, it just really isn't. But we don't know that until we ask. So the more you do something, the better you become at it. The more you learn, the more you can teach other people. And it just goes on and on and on. So never, ever say no to learning something new. So stop being stubborn and open up your mind, because there are great people out there with some amazing ideas that you're never going to think of in your life. Thank you very much for watching this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new, and I would mean the absolute world to me if you left a like and subscribe to the channel. Last week we spoke about just making a start. You don't necessarily need to know how, just get started. And I really do think that it'll go hand to hand with this video, so I'm going to leave that up on the screen right here for you to click, and I hope I'll see you there. As always, thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you next week.